Just think of it as the rough draft of the podcast world. This is the Newbie Writers Podcast with your hosts Damien Vogt and Catherine Bramkamp.
Hey, this is episode 146 of the Newbie Writers Podcast, and whatever. I am cranky today. I'm sorry, I'm going to start the show off like that. Because
You can start the show being cranky, so just explain why you're cranky. So it's not just the general crankiness.
Well, I hit my finger.
It's specific crankiness.
I hit my finger very, very hard yesterday, and it's purple and throbbing. That's all right. Alcohol fixed that a little bit until I fell asleep. I didn't put my finger in the alcohol.
No, that doesn't work at all. You need to drink the alcohol, chasing down the pain pills with the martini. That's what I do. Break sleep.
Yep. You do live in Hollywood,
Please don't take this as a medical show. That's not advisable at all.
See, I try and get all of the crap out of the way in one go, so I went to the dentist as well and had some major work done, which was hilarious because I had that done, and then 45 minutes after being to the dentist, I went and saw my accountant about my tax.
Oh, God.
I can't repeat what someone said to me, but yes. I said, you're trying to get screwed all in one day was the general term.
Oh, my gosh.
So I had to go into a new accountant. It's a new, I'm changing accountant. So I went in there and I said, sorry if I sound like I'm having a stroke, but I've been to the dentist. So yes.
And he looked at you and says, why did you go to the dentist and to me?
You're a sucker for punishment. I said, yeah, no, but I plan to hit myself very hard with a hammer later, so it'll cover that.
It'll really make it painful.
Anyway, it's not fair on our guest. We have Melissa Baker on, author, blogger, and she likes to talk about love and happiness, which I'm really not in the mood to talk about. Sorry, Melissa. Welcome anyway.
Thank you.
So yes, Catherine can do all the nice things and I'll talk about crap, basically, today.
There you go. Well, I met Melissa through our mutual speakers bureau, and I wanted to discuss, Melissa, not only your book, Save Your Relationship from Yourself, but also, you do a lot of other things. You blog, you offer classes, you produce a newsletter. So what I'm interested in, just to start this conversation, is tell us a little bit about your journey in creating your book, becoming a speaker. How did you set that all up in your life?
I didn't start off wanting to do any of it, actually.
That's a good start.
So we're a reluctant relationship counselor. Okay.
Yes, really. I almost got divorced 12 years ago. So that's kind of what kicked it off. And I'd been married since 1977 at that point, and that was in 2002. So I'd been married quite a long time. And so that kicked off writing about relationships and trying to help people, because I got through to the other side and I stayed married to my husband. And I wanted to tell people about what we had learned. So I'm a teacher, really. I'm a classical pianist and I'm a French teacher. So I knew how to do curriculum. So I wrote a curriculum on various aspects of relationships. I started teaching, and I saw a lot of people being helped and learning about concepts in new ways. So that kind of encouraged me, and I went on and I did a website, and I started blogging quite a lot, and I got some good feedback there. And then it just came about that I probably should get some of those blogs. I had to redo them, of course, but it gave me ideas about what to do, and put them into a book. And I organized them there were myths that I talked about. So there were short little chapters that people could access. The main thing about relationships that you definitely, or just about anything actually that you write, it has to be easily accessible. But for people to understand it, actually people aren't readers. For the most part, I find that they want to read something quickly and be able to get it quickly. They might read a lot, but they read things quickly.
Yeah, too long didn't read. It's kind of the mantra now for readers on the web or any place else. Too long didn't read.
Right. But since I identified myself as a teacher, You know, the book thing wasn't. It's one thing writing little articles, you know, blogs, something like that, but then putting something together was another thing. But the wonderful thing is that I've been writing with a buddy, a writing buddy. It's just the two of us. We don't have anybody else in our group. And she writes novels and other kinds of spiritual treatises. And I edit her work and she edits my work. But we also do, you know, we go to professionals for our editing as well. You cannot edit your own writing. It's really not possible. Even if you're a professional editor, I do some professional editing too, but I'm not good with my own work.
Yeah, I think that's thank you for repeating that very good rule.
Right.
If you,
it's a big one.
You know, without airing past things, but if you got through to the other side, and then you said, I'm going to write about this, does that then stress your relationship even more? Saying to you've smoothed out your relationship with your husband. You go, by the way, I'm going to write about this now, and it's going to be out there on the internet.
Right. Well, I mean, also I was talking about personal things. I mean, I'm not a therapist. You know, I was coming about it from the point of view as education. People don't have relationship education. I mean, none of us have taken a course in it.
No, I was just thinking, if my wife and I had an argument, and then we smoothed it over, and I said, right, by the way, I'm going to write about this, and then get onto the blog and go, my wife is pissing me off today.
Right.
She would crack the shits. It would just start it all over again, I'm sure.
No, well, the thing is, if you see other people being helped by that, it normalizes it for people. But, you know, because you never get to a place of nirvana anyway. And even though I know a lot about relationship work, you know, my husband and I have arguments periodically. You know, it's going to be like that forever. So I want to make sure that people know that. You know, relationship. I'm not a relationship guru that is in some kind of enlightened space. I'm a human being like everybody else.
So yeah, but having arguments is good though, isn't it?
They can be very good. You just have to kind of reframe it as something that you can see as an opportunity instead of something that's horrible. And that's difficult when you're in the heat of the relationship. You know, in the argument, the heat of the argument. Depends.
I try to be right. Always.
Well, that's it. That's it. I know.
I don't care about being right. I just want to win.
Yeah.
I just want to win. Okay.
Yeah, well,
that's different.
I mentioned this to Catherine in the pre-show. There was a thing on the radio about when is it appropriate to say sorry.
Right.
Only because we had a politician here make some racial slurs about China, and then it turns out most of his business is conducted in China, so he had to backtrack and say sorry. But
I think so.
Typical politician. But that sort of sparked this thing about when to say sorry, and I sent in a message saying, I never say sorry, I just argue until I'm right. No, it's true. Yeah. So, but do you get people now contacting you saying, oh, help me, my partner has cheated on me, or I don't know what to do in this situation?
Sure, I definitely do. I mean, one couple I had come to me, it was very interesting. They had very different world views, and they thought they had been together for, 30, 35 years, and they thought they should really break up because they had really different views of the world, you know, cosmologically. You know, the woman was really kind of woo-woo, and the guy was more pragmatic and materialistic, and that they had a great, I just try to really tell people no two people are alike, and to think that your partner is going to be like you is just fantasy.
Wow.
Well, it's boring too.
It is. It's very boring. It's actually narcissistic.
It's ultimate in a boring relationship to have you. I mean, you already know all about you. I like having somebody who's different, who's got a different sense of things. Then you complement each other. I don't think having somebody exactly like you is a good idea at all.
But of course, that's what our arguments are normally about. You know, why don't you do it this way? I know how to do it. You don't know how to do it. Or why don't you like a certain thing and I love it? Why don't you love it? You know, but it's kind of a narcissistic thing. I mean, I had a bunch of singles the other day who were in my class, and they were really wanting their partner, somebody they could find, to be identical to them. And I said, "Oh, this because they're filling out profiles for online dates." You know, and the computer is matching them like that. So, you know, one fellow was there and he was saying, I need to find someone who likes to hike exactly the way I like to hike, as many miles and everything. Otherwise, I don't even want to be with her. And I said, well, you're never going to find anybody. Yeah. No wonder you're still single.
Take your brother.
You know? Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
So you took So you had the blogs, and then
Yes.
from there you said, gosh darn, I'm going to write a book. Was it that simple for you, or did you go through a process?
No, the thing is, it wasn't actually. I wrote the book 3 times, completely 3 times. I wrote it. It was a much bigger book, and I've always have a lot of readers. It's funny, you know, friends will tell you they'll read it. I had maybe a dozen friends who said, "Oh yeah, pass that by me, and I'll be glad to read it." And you know, maybe about half of them really come through, or they do a little bit or a few pages, or they don't. You know, they have to be ruthless. They can't just say, "Oh, that's a nice book." You know, people have to give you really good, solid critique, and that's hard. That's hard for people. They don't want to do that.
Yeah.
We're sorry, because it's the running joke right now. Is Damien read the first chapter of a current book that I'm working on, Future Gold, and just wrote back and said, "Oh my God, this is crap." So yes, they have to be pretty brutal.
You have to be brutal, but you know, it kind of wounds you a little bit. But you don't be attached to your writing, because it's just a great practice. Because definitely, ultimately, the book is yours. It is, but you're listening to all these comments. And after you hear quite a few of them, then you'll integrate them or not. And it's still, you know, they don't take away your creativity. They don't. I mean, you think that in the beginning, and particularly you're writing a novel, a piece of nonfiction. I mean, a piece of fiction. A piece of nonfiction, you know, is a little bit easier to take, I think, the criticism.
Yeah.
You know, because you've got hard facts there.
Yeah.
Then you can't say, if someone turned to you and said, "Well, hang on, you said that this happened in 1973, but it actually happened in 1968." You go, "Oh shit, sorry." But if it was in a fiction piece, and you go, your character's pathetic, then that's a bit different. But I have this problem. It is a bit of a disease, I think, where there's just no filter. So people get the honest thing from me all the time. And I think it's the way you deliver it a little bit. You've got to back it up. You can't just say, "Look, that's crap." I think I wrote like 5 pages to Catherine about why I was woken.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah, because you can.
Yes, you did.
But I say this to like clients of mine. This is the strangest thing, right? So I'm going to back up me being an asshole, basically, is that people will now hire me to give them honest feedback when it comes to things like in their workplace, almost like a consultancy thing. And they ring me and go, "Look, so-and-so said that you just they've recommended you because you tell it like it is, and we want," and I heard this from a potential customer the other day, "we want a no bullshit response."
Right.
Oh, that's great.
Very good. That's good. Yeah, that's great.
And so I went out there and just walked into one room and went, "Wow, that's awful." I just shut the door and went to the next one.
Right.
Give me your money.
Right. Well, what I do with my writing buddy and I do, this is the only thing that we never say what the other person has written is stupid, not valid. I mean, if somebody has a topic or they've created characters or whatever, or you know, a novel and they're writing, we never say what a stupid thing to even write about. You know, we never do that to each other. That's the only thing that we hold sacrosanct, really, is that we don't trespass on that. Whatever the topic is, if you know somebody wanted to write a book about, you know, banging your finger, you know, I don't know, you know, we'd say sure, you know, maybe I can think that's not worth it, but I would never say that to my partner, to my writing buddy.
Well, I mean, if I was to write a book about that, it'd be 2 pages. And it would have F you on one page and the rest of that word on the other.
Right.
That's actually a brilliant idea. I might go and smash words
you
out
might
later
go
this
for
afternoon.
That.
The book, the injury book.
The injury book, just to get it out.
Yeah. For those people who don't feel comfortable swearing.
Yeah.
So,
you might be onto something there. That could be something. That could be a good little coffee table book, a small one. Yeah. You might be onto something.
The tradesman's
with some good illustrations
for injuries. Take your little tiny
injuries.
book out.
Yeah.
Pick the injury, then pick the swear word that's going to make you feel the most better.
Yep, and I'd like Samuel L. Jackson to do the audio version.
There you go.
So, but how does? Here's a thing. Divert from the whole sort of relationship thing, but with a writing partner, I'm curious about this. How does that work for you? I mean, is one person more of the leader than the other? Like if you're pulling all this together, and you take on one aspect, your writing part takes on another aspect. How do you pull that together without it being like, well, I want more of my stuff in here than yours?
No, that hasn't been a problem at all. Actually, we meet every week for several hours, and we just go over what each of us has written that week. And we go, we just take it out. This isn't any good. Put it here. You have to rephrase this. And then the person goes home. Each one of us goes home and then redoes it in some way. And we might see it, might review it again, or might not. We might review it 10 times again. It kind of depends. It might be okay to just get it to a professional after that point.
But there must become a point where if you've really slaved over one section, you're like, yeah, I think I've nailed it. And then you get together for your coffee or your lunch, and you say, look, here, this is my bit. And they go, yeah, that's not really going to work. And you need to
that was a great attempt.
Nice try.
Nice try.
We'll see you next week.
I think you're onto something, because I'd say every time I have gone to my writing partner thinking that this is stellar, it's been horrible.
Mm-hmm.
It's been very interesting. And she does the same. Every time she's thinking, God, I thought that was really great what I just wrote. And I said, no, I don't even understand what you're talking about.
Well, it was on Wikipedia that day. But, okay then.
So it's interesting.
On the flip side then, do you then still take things that you don't think are worth it? Do you go, oh, yeah, look, I scribbled this down, but it's probably a bit of rubbish. And then it turns out to be quite good. Yes,
definitely.
Yeah,
definitely. I think it's really hard. That's why it's hard to get perspective on your own work. It really is. And I think another person, can just make a big difference. There's trust there for sure. I've been doing this with my friend for about, 7 or 8 years. And we certainly didn't start off that way, because we were more, our egos were more fragile or something. We didn't know. And now it's free reign, because we just have, that's fine. Just tell me what you think. I'll take it out. I'll think about that. We don't say that what how we've critiqued it has been, it's been so useful. That's the thing. It's been incredibly useful. And we end up going to a professional editor at a much higher place, where that person can really help us, and we don't have to pay. We're not paying each other for this time.
Right.
Paying somebody is a whole other thing.
So it becomes a little bit of a social gathering. I heard somewhere that, especially for men, it is important to catch up with your mate for a beer once a week. Now, I think an Australian said that just to cover the fact that they're always out of the pub, but it is important. I think it breaks you away from the ho-hum of every day and smashing your hand with a hammer. You just
smash your hand.
Well, I think I've set it up now that I hope if I send my work out that Catherine slams the crap out of it.
No, because the thing is,
it'll be my turn. That's certainly the case.
That's right.
But when people, when I really critique something harshly, and there are lots of red marks or whatever the color of the ink is, it doesn't. It's not. We do this all just a paper, actually. By the way, we don't do it through the computer.
Oh.
We're just we just have our paper right there typed, and that really makes a difference. And we each have a copy. We make a copy for each one of us as we read it. We read it to each other, because that helps too. Reading something can really help you know where the errors are in it.
Yeah.
How it flows.
So do you do this in a public place, or would you go to a cafe or Starbucks?
Yeah, we usually just go to a cafe. Yeah, we have a little place in town that we really like. We've changed a few times, but mostly we once we find a place, we'll go there for quite a few years every week.
And so you sit there and read it out. Does that annoy other patrons? Like, seriously,
no,
you reading your book out again?
I know, really. I don't think. Well, sometimes people have been curious and they come over and talk to us, but mostly people, how people are. They're just involved in their own lives or their own conversations, or they're hooked. They've got their headsets on.
So, okay then. What's the strange? So people come up to you then. What's the strangest thing you've had? Like someone ask you. So you're reading out this stuff, about how not to be single, or do whatever you're talking about, and then someone comes up and goes, "Excuse me, you couldn't help it over here."
Well, we've had some creepy guys actually come over to us, particularly if I'm reading a section about sexuality or something. We've had some guy want to have some conversation with us. You know, we're polite, but then we just say that we're working. You know, really, this is what we do. So please just leave us alone.
Oh.
Hello, ladies. I couldn't help it over here.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Sounds like you're lonely.
I know, exactly.
Yeah. And do you normally respond with, maybe, but my husband doesn't think so?
Yeah. There you go. Yeah, get the husbands involved in there, then we're all set. We're protected.
Or have you ever had it where someone's come and said, I'm just wondering, look, my husband and I, we're currently sitting over there having an argument. Can you help us out, please?
No, I haven't had that. You know, that's a fairly risky thing. I mean, I could give them my card or something, but for them to, I think when people are in the heat of something like that, they're in a lot of pain. I don't think they would risk, even if they overheard that somebody might be able to help them in some way. But it's public venue. You know, that's the thing.
I think the best way you would cover that is you just go over to the table and say, "Excuse me, sir, you're the male in this relationship?" And he'd say, "Yes," and you go, "You're wrong," and then just walk out. Just leave it like that. That's fine. This is why I'm not a counsellor.
No. You got to be careful, kind of how you call out the gender. You know, I live in a town that has a lot of transgender, homosexuals, and lesbians, and all that. So you kind of don't go that way.
Yeah, now that would be awkward. Sir, you're the male in this relationship. Right. Well, I
exactly.
was.
Sir or madam, are you the male or female in this relationship?
Yeah. Exactly.
Oh, yeah, that's what we're arguing about. It used to be the male, but roles have reversed. Like,
now we don't know.
That happens.
Most definitely. So what kind of... tell me this. Tell me when the book was released, and then what kind of feedback or what kind of reader feedback have you been getting from putting out something like this, or a relationship manual? Okay,
the ebook came out March 2013, and then the print copy. I wasn't going to do a print copy actually. So what do I really need to do? Print copy? You know, I've got to get the artwork done and all that. I've been working with a cartoonist though out of Canada, so you can see on my site that I have a lot of cartoons, because I'm trying to make all this humorous. You know, this is very painful stuff, relationships, but it's also can be very funny. So the cartoonist
we choose
is
funny
wonderful.
in my family.
Yeah. You have to.
Yeah. So then the print copy came out. I've been surprised actually. I had a 15-year-old give me somebody 15 years old read my book. She's never had a relationship. And then she told me, "Melissa, you're telling me that I really got to get my stuff together before I have one." I said, "Well, all right. You know, it's appropriate for so many people. I have 80-year-olds who made comments on Amazon. They're reading it. I had an 85-year-old couple who took all of my classes. They took 9 classes, and they've been married 55 years.
Oh my God!
They were church and very strong Catholics. You know, so people are coming from all different kinds of backgrounds.
What a kick!
So, yeah.
What a kick.
I mean, what a great thing to be 85 years old and still wanting to look at a relationship in new ways.
Well,
yeah.
It was fantastic. Actually, that woman in particular, I can remember in one class, she was saying, you know, I don't get these triggers. You know, you're saying that, you know, it's all about him. You know, I'm always telling people it's about you. You know, you've got to do something about you. You've got to be the one to reframe. Everybody wants to change their partner, and then they'll be happy. It's not possible. You know, you've got to do something about changing you. I mean, then your partner might change, but it's got to start with you. And that was a hard one for her to get, because she kept on saying, well, you know, John always does this. He does this. It completely annoys me. But I said, John could do that and that same behavior, and it probably would not annoy me at all. I'm not connected to him in the same way. I don't have the same background story, the same history that you have, and all that. And I think she was finally getting it. That was one of her major points she wanted to really understand. Why is he driving me crazy?
Because that's what we do.
And why had it taken that long for her to figure it out?
I know. I mean, she still loved him and wanted to be with him, but it's still, how could I get it? It was something about me that hooked onto it.
Huh.
People usually don't want to go to themselves. They don't. You got to go to some pain and I call it, it's a pain that you can go to that's actually, when you go through it, it's a clean pain. It's not a dirty pain. Most of our pains are fairly dirty unless you can get to it and resolve it in some way, get to the other side. And when you hit it again, it will come up again. You'll be able to move through it. But most of us have pain that we don't really understand.
I do. It's purple.
Just say your pain today is very specific.
Yes, it's good.
It's not emotional at all.
I don't want to let it out because that's obviously my anger force right there, and that can't come out my body. It keeps me ticking. I'm at Amazon.com. Save Your Relationship from Yourself book, and you've got one-star review. I don't know if you read it. Have you seen it?
Yes, I did read it. She thought it was very just common sense, and why bother to read it.
Here's the thing. So she said everything in this book is 100% common sense. Now,
right.
I had someone a while back, I had a meeting with someone from my business who were talking about safety in the workplace, and I said, well, some of this is common sense. And he put his hand up. He says, I don't like that term common sense, because what's common sense to me might not be common sense to you.
Right.
And so that's why I thought this one-star review is interesting. Everything in this book is 100% common sense. Okay, to that person, but probably not to the other 20-odd 5-star reviews you've got. To those people, it's not common sense. You're like, wake-up moment.
Right.
So I try to avoid anything that says, well, that should be common sense.
Right.
So,
well, the other thing is we don't know anything about that person who wrote it. I mean, she or he might have a relationship that completely works and has always worked, and they just kind of innately understand things. I mean, that can happen to people. Mostly it doesn't. Mostly you need help. I'd say almost everybody I know needs some kind of help. But who knows? We don't know. She might feel that, I don't know why she was looking for a relationship book, but, that's the thing. You just don't know where people are coming from when they make those reviews.
No.
When they write them.
It's Amazon.
Yeah.
That's why I read them out.
Right. So you really can't.
Yeah.
Or you shouldn't. And
but I think it's good, because if you have a lot of reviews, and I do that when I buy a product. I mean, I like that there's a gamut. If everything's all stellar, well, you can think that the people have paid for those reviews or something. And people do pay for reviews, actually.
Yes, they do.
Yeah, unfortunately, there have been scams, but so that's great. Somebody had an opinion and they're willing to write it, and then people just see that there's something real about what's what has been put up on Amazon.
How do you deal with that though? As an author, everyone has this thing where people want feedback, but when they get atrocious feedback, how do you deal with that? Normally for me, when I get atrocious feedback about this show, I shout them out and abuse them on this show. That's the risk they take. How do you go about it? Do you just sort of shrug it off, or did you say to your sort of writing partner and your circle of friends, oh, check this out, I got a 1-star review?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't make you feel good what you say, but I mean, anybody who's willing to go put stuff out to the public, and it's a creative effort that I've done, and I'm sorry it didn't help that person. I can't be everything to everybody. I mean, it's not. I've got to realize that. And I mean, for instance, I'll say, I mean, I don't like the Harry Potter books. I mean, those were really famous. I mean, everybody loved the Harry Potter books. I've met a few other people who didn't enjoy them. My mother-in-law loved them. My son loved them. My husband loved them. I mean, so many people loved them, and that was great. They didn't do much for me. No,
I'm not a fan of it.
So yeah, so there you go. Something that's hugely famous, and the woman is, very wealthy and fantastic. She made so much money on publishing those books. Great, but they weren't my favorite. Yeah, so you kind of just have to take it in stride. And of course, if you're a performer, I mean, I'm a classical pianist too, so I mean, that's just the way it goes. You do something, and then some people like it, some people don't like it. You kind of have to get thick skin on that. Mostly also, you have to know that you like it. I wanted to put out something that had personal integrity for me, and that's my book does. And I talk about my some of my own life and my students and other things that I've heard from people, and it's real. It's a real book. Mm-hmm. So how people take that, it's just the way it goes. Yeah. So I took it in that stride.
I think too, especially for new authors, they get caught in a trap, and you raised a good point, because they get caught in a trap. It's like, well, to be popular, to sell a lot of books, I need to appeal to, quote, everybody, unquote. And that is a recipe for failure. You need to really be more specific and go with your dream, and go, in your case, what you did was, go with your truth and what you want to put out in the world. And if you don't, if everybody, quote, likes it, you're almost more in trouble than if you have a handful of people saying, oh my God, I hated it. Because if they hated it, it means you were effective. You did something that was really raw.
Right.
And that's just, I think that's a better goal for a new
mm-hmm.
writer.
What's been the hardest thing for you, going from just being in a relationship to starting to write to then being published? What's been the hardest thing to overcome?
Well, I think the hardest thing is that people want to put you in this expert role, and I keep on disabusing them of that. I mean, I am human, just like everybody else. I've done research. I write a book. I am definitely striving for the best relationship I can have with myself and my husband and everybody else I know. And I think that's really important. Relationships are key to everything. But I also you have to be careful that I have to be careful that I don't, people want to put you in that box, and I got to make sure I'm not in that box, because that can destroy my relationship with myself and with others. Because you get too overwhelmed by accolades, and your ego can really be inflated, and just stay. You got to stay real. And I mean, I'm much more interested in having a really successful relationship with my husband than I am with being a really successful writer. I mean, if I had to make a choice that I had to be the best writer in the world, no, I'd rather be the best partner in the world.
Well, from a writing point of view, though,
right.
So, what were some obstacles that you overcame, sort of as an unknown author?
Oh yeah, well, marketing is just a nightmare. Marketing, I think, is just. It's just that's you do
yes,
creative
it
effort.
Is.
Yeah, I mean, you do creative effort, and you do the best you can, and then that's just such as the small part of it, really. And I'd rather just keep on writing and keep on helping people and teaching, and I really get upset. Actually, I get frustrated with the marketing, because I don't really like it, and you do have to do it.
Yeah.
So I've gotten people to help me periodically with social media in particular. Is not my thing. I don't really get into it. So I'm older too. I'm 62. So not that means anything necessarily. I have a 90-year-old mother-in-law who loves all things technical and technological. Yeah. So it's not just age necessarily, but I'm also seeing how technology is really destroying relationships. So I'm careful there.
Okay, let's talk about that for a second. How are you seeing?
Well, people are on the net all the time. I mean, how many hours are people spending on it? I read something that 60 hours a week beyond the work that you do. People are on screens. So are they talking to the part? I mean, most of my students, they do not eat dinner with their partners. They don't have one single meal with their partner. That's very common now. And that was not what it was in the old days. I mean, face-to-face, there's nothing like face-to-face time. And I'm not talking about Skyping or things like that. I mean, just in person, being with a real human being you can't replace it.
I think internet companies have got it made. I just had to buy more time, more data, so I could do this show, because a certain child of mine just smashed out YouTube for the past week. Got an email on Wednesday saying, you have exceeded the limit of download for your account. Buy some more.
Oh, wow.
Crap, I've got a show on Saturday.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, that's exactly what happened. I mean, I think people have to be really judicious with what they're doing. You got to be conscious about what you're doing. I mean, even when my husband and I first got married 37 years ago, we had a TV, because everybody's got TVs. We realized it was really not helpful for us, because I'd be up in the middle of the night watching some show and he'd be doing something else, and we weren't together. We weren't having as much sex as we wanted. They've done studies on that. If people have, couples have TVs in their bedrooms, they're just watching. They might be watching sex or something, but they're not doing it.
Yeah, I've read that too, where the television in the bedroom will precipitate a decline in sex for couples.
Yeah.
We put one in our bedroom because we had. I upgraded the one in the main room, so I was like, I'll put it in the bedroom at least, because there's no other brackets for it. It goes on the wall, but I don't think we've ever really turned it on. It's just on there. Just the little red light just annoys me.
You can.
Put some tape over it. Yeah.
Right.
Well, what kind of, tell us, what would you recommend for, you have a newbie writer and they're in a more position where thhere a teacher, they're an instructor, they're a psychologist, they're a counselor, and they want to put together a book because they think that, let's put everything that I know so that I can reach more people. What would you recommend as first or second steps to get a newbie through to the next level?
Definitely have a writing buddy. Find at least one person, and some people have groups. That just takes. We found, 2 worked, and other people would like to join our group because we're getting really successful at it. But it's too much time. Like, we couldn't devote more than the few hours we do a week to that. But other people are finding great success in groups if they find the right one. So I'd say that, and keep rewriting. I mean, you have to, that the first draft you've got is just the beginning step. There's so much you have to do, and just keep doing it. It's worth it to keep on going over the page. But it's tedious. It's arduous work, but it's really worth it. I mean, you'll get to something that really flows, and it's exciting, and you really hone your skill over time. And it takes time. I mean, everybody thinks they're a writer. I mean, that's the thing. Because we can write. We can put pen to paper or type it or something, but we're not.
Yeah, it's more specialized than that. But that's what makes it fun. That's why we do what we do, because it is more than just, I think I'll just write my book, what I hear all the time.
Right. And be clear. One of the things with my writing buddy, we're really into be clear. I mean, unless you're writing a particular something in your novel that you don't want to be clear. I get that. But so your reader can really follow what's going on. So, and that's hard for people. It's very hard to just write something that is clear and understandable. I think writers have a hard. I find that all the time when I'm reading blogs, or what are they talking about? I don't know. They jump from one idea to another. They didn't really, develop it or whatever. So
it's called word count.
Go ahead.
It's called word count. That's why. You try and fluff the word count. Yeah.
Right.
It is called word count, because I get a lot of that where my students are all over the place just to fill in all that space. And I'm like, you know what? I will not mark you down if you're short on words. Please stop making up stuff.
That's like that
just
thing.
Be clear.
That thing you sent me to do, which I still haven't done. The that critical thinking or whatever it is, how you can.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I read the question because I sort of skimmed the question, which is what most of your students probably do, and I started to form like my arguments, and then I reread the question, and it says, "What's one way to do this?" And I went, "Well, that's crap. I've come up with like 6."
Yep. Yes, you probably have, and I've had them list them all.
So I thought, well, no, hang on. If I'm going to be literal, one way, that is not going to fill 2 pages without fluffing.
Why do you think it's hard? That's why it's a college class.
Yeah, I know. And I thought, well, okay, I'm going to have to sort of think about this a little bit more. And by the way, I thought I'd just try something else. I thought I'd try Googling that question just to see if someone else has done it. And here's a problem. Newbie writers came up. So that's not...
Oh, that's funny.
So we obviously, I think we posted that question in the show notes.
We must have.
So it had found 1 result. Really? Click. Oh crap! That's my site. So I can't even cheat.
Right. That's great.
Yes, it is. It's pretty hard to come up with a way of come out with one way to, I can't even remember the rest of the question, but it was about bias, how to deal with bias.
It's about bias, to come up with a way of evaluating a situation without letting bias get in your way.
Which is fine, but I don't know how I can get 2 pages out of that without sounding like I'm waffling and repeating the same thing.
Welcome to my class.
Yeah, really, that's good.
So yeah, can we make it like, find one way and please make it a paragraph? That's what we'll do.
You can just do a paragraph. I'll accept a paragraph if you want to reduce your assignment.
That's all right, the phone rang and I went, oh, yep, cool, I'll sort that out later, and just forgot about it. But yes, we'll see how
Well, cool. So where can we find you?
You can find me at loving, LOVING, FOR, keeps, KEEPS.com. And so I'd love to hear from anybody out there who would like to talk about writing and relationships.
Cool.
Wonderful. We appreciate you coming on and telling us about your adventures as a writer.
Yeah, thank you very much. I was reluctantly going there, but I think I've got a couple more books I'm working on now.
That's great. Good. I always like to hear that. Yay.
Are you out there on Twitter and the old Facebook?
Yeah, I've got some Twitter. I've got it all. I can't tell you exactly what it's all about, but I am.
You should follow Catherine. Both of you should get together, and then you can follow each other.
Okay.
Yeah, you can follow me at C. Bramkamp, or add to the hashtags Newbie Writers.
Oh,
okay.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, we'll do.
We've got some things to do. We've got Word of the Week, which comes from Arlene Miller's Weird and Wonderful Words series, found at bigwords101.com. I've heard this before, this word. Keister.
You have?
Yeah, keister.
Keister.
Keister, uh-huh.
A burglar's toolkit? No. I know it for the other informal of a person's buttocks. I like how you got buttocks in there.
Yeah, right.
A suitcase, bag, or box for carrying possessions or merchandise. That's crap, because most people know it as your butt. So you wouldn't say, oh, I'm just going to go get my keister full of plush toys.
Not if you're a burglar.
Okay, then. So then, do burglars use that term now? Whoa.
Probably not, but if you're reading a 19th century novel, maybe.
Yes, I don't think you'd have any hard criminals going, yeah, man, stole so many set-top boxes and put them in my keister.
That would have a whole different interpretation, wouldn't it?
Actually, I wonder if that's where it joins in, because if they're smuggling drugs, they probably do have the drugs in their keister.
That would be yes.
Awesome. Anyway, let's do a tortured sentence.
Let's do a tortured sentence.
Next time, don't put the wrong emphasis on the right syllable. Tortured sentences. I should probably mention that 629 Publications sponsored Tortured Sentences, so check them out at 629publications.com. I think that's what it is. I'll put it in the show notes. I can't remember. But they help you out with editing and cover design and doing all that stuff that the rest of us could not be bothered doing, I think.
Yeah, it helps.
If it helps. Tortured Sentence brought to you by... What does that mean?
Brought to you by, meaning I was going to put that in so you would remember to promote our sponsor.
Ah. Well, there you go. I'm literally reading our show notes for the first time, and it's confused the crap out of me.
We're highly smooth and professional, no question.
Yeah. Jeez. So, where did this come from?
This came from one of my classes, and this is from, I had a very, one of my very intense students who I don't mind mocking because he was just such a pain in my classes. So this is one of his sentences where he's trying to be very, very pompous. And he writes, so the logic here would be the choice of a topic that is not likely to impact many, if any, in the class, and also failing to show the nexus of how you personally are impacted by drone strikes in faraway Yemen.
Is that a personal dig at you? Like, I feel personally insulted a little bit.
It was a dig at the student who was supposed to present a controversial topic. It did not need to be something from her personal experience.
Oh, right. And that's just, if you're going to crash in on someone, crash it on Yemen. What have they done? I like the word.
So
Yemen.
I just thought it was just, he just would go on and on and on. Don't do this in your writing. Do not. I think your point, Melissa, is good. Be clear. It's not a bad thing to set up some simple, declarative, clear sentences instead of trying to sound very erudite and intellectual, because that's when you get caught up and you get these really crazy stuff, and then I mock you. There you go.
Yeah, on the internet. But does that come out of the fact that it is a college course? Do people get that mentality of going, well, I need to write because I'm at college and I'm doing this properly?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and if you've read people's dissertations, or if you've read, which I have, and or if you've read like academic kinds of reports, they all are in on this, and it's all about how opaque can you make this writing so that no one can call you on anything, so you can disavow anything that you wrote down because you never were clear in the first place. I strongly disagree with that approach.
But isn't there then the other side of it that you don't want to write too simplistically or normally, because then someone could turn and go, well, you're at college, mate, you should really be lifting your game a bit to write a bit more professionally, maybe.
Well, I think that's that's kind of the closed circle, the brotherhood thing, where that you need to write all of this really, thick, intense, verbiage, use a lot of verbiage so that, you are part of the club and you're talking in the code, and you don't want to be clear. I think that it's self-perpetuated. It makes me crazy.
It's your job.
I know it's my job, and it makes me crazy.
Anyway.
Someone's got to stand up and say, "You guys are not following. You're doomed." The more difficult the writing is, the less likely people are to read it. Right, Melissa? I mean, if you write
definitely.
really badly and really intensely, people will take one look at those dense paragraphs, and you're gone.
Right.
Well,
too long didn't read.
Yeah, is there that thing as well? I don't know. I heard this years ago, to try and avoid using I, like that first person, in a lot of these sort of essays, because it personalizes it too much.
Yeah.
So you don't say, "Oh, well, I think blah blah blah." And
because you're not an expert yet. That's where that's really coming from. You need to quote other experts, and so you need to do it with the he, she. You need to do third person twice removed. You don't want to. You're not an expert yet. When you're an expert and you're writing it in a dissertation format for your PhD, then you can use I, because now you're on the expert level.
Yeah, but then if you're writing something like just like an essay, it's hard. Like it's part of your opinion a little bit, but you've got to change it from, well, I think this, to it has been found that.
Right.
Whatever.
Right. And that's where you go is, it's been found that, according to so-and-so who is smarter than I am, this is what I'm going to tell you.
So how would you react if, like, I put something like, well, it's been determined that Catherine Bramkamp feels that having bias in such a subject is blah, blah, blah. Like, if you call your own teacher out, have you had that done?
No, they're very careful about that.
I'm going to try that.
Mental note. I can see you writing stuff down. We tried that. That's a good idea.
That's not going to get me a pass. All right.
Right.
Melissa, when it comes to writing, do you use prompts? I know a lot of authors will use a prompt if they're stuck or they just want to get into that writing mood. Is that something that you get into? She's still there? Or is she gone?
I think she's gone.
Oh,
we lost her, but at least we got all of her info.
There you go. Well, goodbye. Catherine, do you use prompts as an author?
Sometimes I use prompts. I usually spend my time creating them. So I have a series of books and materials that I use to help prompt the prompts. So that's my circular world.
Right.
So here's the prompt for this week. What is the difference between writing or describing a scene and simply taking a photo of it? We look through the lens of a camera, and we filter the world through the lens of our own experiences and history. Is there a difference? Is there a difference between how you would describe something versus taking the photo? And you can go really crazy with this. You can get really in depth because we have an interesting contrast. And if you see something, how is it different between what you see and what a camera sees?
Well, if you base it off the camera phones, firstly, the difference would be you open the camera app, but you got your finger over the lens, and then it's blurry because you just smudged it with the hamburger that you were eating to try and take the selfie. So you're wiping it down. See, it's just all way too complicated. Whereas when it comes to writing, you go, I ate my hamburger.
There you go.
Yes.
There you go. But anyway, I'm interested in how we filter things and how we look at photographs and how we believe them or not believe them. It's a very interesting question. So I just want to throw that out there.
We got Melissa back. She got disconnected.
I just got disconnected and I got back. Yeah, sorry about that.
I asked you a question just at the time you got disconnected.
You asked me a question. What was your question?
Do you use prompts when you need to get into the writing swing of things?
Yes, I do. I do these little things called quick writes. And so I'll just do a little incomplete sentence or a question, and then I'll just do a free write on it, just really fast, so I can get beyond my conscious mind. Yeah, I think those are excellent. I actually ask my students to do that a lot about relationship questions.
Oh, just off the top of their head, just write?
Yeah, just write. Yeah. It's a great thing. Often something's revealed to you that you hadn't thought about, and you don't critique it. You don't have to have correct grammar, spelling, anything. There's just so much that holds us back.
Yeah.
Well, that's right.
Very good. Yeah, that's a great idea. Is to just ask the question and then just go. What do you think?
Just go for it.
Yeah. Oh, cool. Yeah. I like that.
So what's a common prompt that you would give out? We just read one out that talks about the difference between writing and taking a photo. When it comes to your students and people that come to you, what's the most common prompt you give them?
Well, often it might just be, who am I? Or my husband is driving me crazy because, my partner is driving me crazy because, and just ... and then you just fill it in. And then sometimes you get going on something that is just content stuff, just a lot of junk that you just want to get out. It's a great way just to get a lot of stuff out. We just carry so much in the spinning that we do, and then you get to something else. You get to something that's deeper in you, and that's what you kind of look at it and say, oh my, really, that's what this is all about. This really had nothing to do about the way he loaded the dishwasher or something.
Right. That's just the trigger point.
yeah, exactly. So that things like that are just, they're wonderful. I think I know that people have written books like that. They just do prompts, and sometimes that free flow or flowing of writing is some of the best writing you'll do, actually. Because you're kind of it's not a channeling process necessarily, but I'm not talking about another entity or something. It's about you. You're just getting into really who you are, and it's flowing. You're not thinking about I'm terrible. My penmanship is awful. My teacher always told me I never could punctuate correctly. Look at my spelling. All those things that are that just really drive people. It makes people not want to write, actually, because they don't think they're good writers just because they can't spell. I mean, some of the best writers are not good spellers.
Thank you. Yes, that would be true.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Right. Just like to point out a quick little thing that we've signed up with Audible, if you like your audiobooks, and check out audibletrial.com/newbiewriters. I'm looking at it now. I'm trying to find a funny book, but I don't know. I looked up Schindler's List before, and I thought, that's probably not appropriate. I mean, there's kids' books on here. I should get some for my boy. I don't know.
There you go.
I did ones before, but check it out. It helps the show out. Audible.com. is where you go. It's an Amazon company, so it wouldn't surprise me if you've already got an Amazon account, then you can just roll it over to there. We should try and get Catherine's books on here. That'd be good.
There you go.
Well,
I need to have somebody do the Audible, and those are, in fact, I'm going to have somebody in the next few weeks. I'm going to have an author, Betsy Fassbinder, who just finished putting her book onto audible.com. She paid for the narrator, etc. So there's a whole process. So yeah, we're going to talk about that. She's going to be on I think in October.
Oh, Fire and Water.
Yeah, I'd love
I am
to hear
totally
that.
ahead of you.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Is this her book, Fire and Water?
Yeah.
Wow, let's play a bit of that then.
Okay.
Without explanation, Jake pulled his car into a beachfront parking lot. Thick crowds milled around the beach. "I want you to see something," he said.
And then he unzipped his pants. Now,
Yeah, right.
No, he didn't. I read the book.
it's that, isn't it? I just love
That's not her voice, right? She hired somebody to do that?
Monica McKay.
I believe so, and that's what we're going to talk about.
Yeah, great.
They just sound so dramatic. That's what I can't capture. I'd love to be able to talk like that, but I think it'd piss everyone else off day to day. Like if you're ringing up to complain to like McDonald's or something, and you sound like that. I don't know.
Right.
Anyway, now, is there anyone you want to give a shout out to, Melissa?
Are you talking about a particular person, or you're talking about just to people in general?
Anyone?
I guess.
No, you can do whatever you want.
I guess I'd say mostly couples need help. So and just know that you're normal. That whatever's going on for you is probably very normal, and it's important to understand that you're not in a bad relationship. You actually could be in a very good one. You just don't know it.
There you go. Now give your husband a shout out. Go on. He kicked it off. You were arguing with him, and that's how you got down this career path.
Definitely. I just love you, Chris. Thanks for giving me all this food for writing about relationships.
There
it continues and continues.
I want to give a shout out to someone. Actually, a couple of people. I want to give a shout out to Adam Remington and Dee Solberg. Thanks to you two for the little bit of sympathy. And, Adam, you cracked me up. But the scotch did help, thanks. So, anyway, Catherine, is there anyone you want to give a shout out to? What about the state of California for not disappearing into the giant sinkhole that the world thought had happened?
We give a shout out to poor Napa, who actually sustained the damage of that last earthquake, and I hope everybody is putting it back, finding it easy to put it back together again. We have lots of people who are without water, and during a drought year in California, to be without water, on top of not being around water, can be pretty tough. And another shout out, I'll give a shout out to my husband's company, Think Tank Photo, because I got to go to LA last week and I missed the earthquake because I was in Southern California, and I got to meet all sorts of very lovely, nice actors, and we got to give away product for Think Tank Photo, and we had a really good time.
Okay, come on, quickly. Who was the most interesting B-grade star, and are they going to end up on this show?
I did not. I wasn't able to grab them to put them on the show, but Ed Asner, who was he was the voice in Up. He was the old man in Up. He looks like that cartoon. I mean, they modeled that little cartoon character right after him because he's got his cane and he's a little more hunched over and he's round, and he was a riot. He just funny and very gruff. And then the other person who I love, I'm a huge raving fan of Julie Brown, who did an album in the 80s called Earth Girls Are Easy. Well, that's one of the songs, Earth Girls Are Easy, and The Homecoming Queen's Got a Gun. And I Like 'Em Big and Stupid, the other one is Because I'm Blonde. I know the whole album. I have it memorized. So when I met her, I was like, oh my God, I love your work.
Oh, you became a teenager, didn't you?
Oh, I was. Both my husband and I were like, oh my God, we love your stuff. I know all the words.
Oh.
So that was very fun. Every once in a while you get to meet, and she just was like, thank you for liking my work. She was quite gracious about it. So that was fun.
Oh, well, there you go.
There you go.
Well, here's a quote of the week to end the show on. I don't hate people. I just feel better when they aren't around. It's from Charles Bukowski, the writer.
Oh, very good. Yeah, he's an interesting poet. Very good.
Oh, yeah. No, I fully support that quote of the week.
Especially after smashing your hand.
Yeah, but you know, these things happen. It's all right.
These things happen.
I'll survive. I just like to, you know, point it out, get a bit of sympathy from the internet. All right. Well, thank you, Melissa, for being on. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, thank you
very
Melissa.
much. I really appreciate it. It was a lot of fun. I think it's great. Thank you.
All right. And for anyone listening, make sure you check out also, last week we had Valerie Koo on. It was a very interesting interview if you're interested in being part of, they have online courses. She's part of the Writers Centre. She also has a podcast called So You Want to Be a Writer, so check that out. And I think, who have we got on next week?
Tibetan Camerford, and he works with We Post Media. He's in the Oregon, Portland area, and we're going to talk about tweeting and social media and all that complicated stuff that authors have to do, even though we don't want to.
Oh, and he has a very strange name, so we shall call him Bruce. Now,
exactly. Let's do that.
all right. Until next week. We'll see you then.
See you then.
Your
Bye-bye.
book starts here on the Newbie Writers Podcast.